and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Jody, and on my channel I talk about Broadway books. And before I get more on into today's video, yes, I am wearing the same outfit in today's video that I wore in my previous video, and that's just because of what today's video is going to be about. It just made sense to me to make this video right after I made that video. So that explains the same wardrobe. Now that that's out of the way, in today's video, I will be going over all the books that I read in the month of July, my July reading wrap-up, or at this point, I should probably just say my overdue, super late July reading wrap-up, seeing as we are in the middle of August. The reason that I'm a bit behind on making this video in particular is, I just spent more time thinking of what I wanted to say in my spoiler-free book reviews, that I put up on my channel for the books I read in the month of July. So yeah, at this point, I'm not sure I'll ever catch up to where I make a reading wrap up at the start of every month, but we'll see, who knows. And also, before I get on to the books that I'm going to be talking about today, I don't have all the books with me, and that's because I donate my books after I read them now. I mentioned this in my reading wrap-ups, previous reading wrap-ups, but in case you're new, that's why I don't have the books with me. Yeah, I just bought too many books in the last few years, so anytime I read a book now, whether I really like it or not, I donate it. And, that's that. And now for what I read in July. So I read a total of 3 books in the month of July, which for me is pretty good. I know it's not as many as others might read in a month, but for me it's pretty good. At least I was consistent, as I read 3 books in the month of June as well. So I'm fine with that. And now on to what the books I read in July were. So the first book that I read in the month of July was Flying Solo by Linda Holmes, and I really, really liked this book. It was such a sweet and charming story about someone going on a journey of self-discovery and finding out what they really wanted out of their life and what they were unwilling to compromise on. I just really loved this story. It was, just so sweet, like I said. I really loved all the characters, and I really loved the love story in the book as well. This book took me about 2 weeks to read, and yeah, I just can't wait to read more from this author in the future, seeing as I really did like their book, Flying Solo. And I gave this book 5 stars. And then the next book that I read in the month of July was a book called The Girls by Cline. I really like this book. It's one of the best books I've ever read. I think it's one of the most well-written books I've ever read as well. And up to this point that I had read this book, I did say in my spoiler-free book review on my channel about this book that it was my favorite book that I read this year so far. That has since changed, as I read a book in August earlier this month that is now my favorite book of all time. But I still really, really like this book. I totally recommend it. It's basically about, it's a very tragic and heartbreaking story about what can happen to someone when they're lonely and seeking love and attention at all the wrong people in all the wrong places. And this story in this book is very much a story that will stay with you after you read it. It's just, I really like this book, and it's like one of those books that always will stand out to you after you read it, that will be a memorable book that you have read. And, it is a very, very heavy book. It's not like, it was not an easy read. This is very much a tragic, sad, depressing kind of story in this book, and I myself always tend to really like books that have that sad, depressing, tragic kind of feel to them. So I'm not surprised that I like this book so much, or I'm not surprised it's one of the best books I've ever read. But I don't know if it's a book for everyone, because unless you can like stories that are a bit on the sad side, probably not for you. But it's such a good book. I highly recommend it. Like I said, it's very much a heavy read, so just know that going into it. If you're not at a place where you're in the mood to read something that's a bit on the heavy side, then wait till you are. But it's such a good book. This book took me about 2 weeks to read, and I gave it 5 stars. I think, I can't remember if I said how long it took me to read. Whatever. I gave it 5 stars. It's like how there's 5 stars and then there's 5 stars. This is like kind of a book that's more than 5 stars, and actually this is a book that I was so tempted to not donate, and it's the first book that I read this year that I kind of wanted to keep. I did end up donating it, just because really I feel like there's only 2 reasons you keep a book. If you really, really like it, which obviously I did really like this book, and also if you think you actually might read it again at some point in the future. Now, I myself have never reread a book that I have read, once, read it again. I have never done that, but I really thought I could picture myself reading this book again at some point in the future. So I am a little sad that I donated it now because I kind of just, like there's books that you really are your like all-time favorites, and this is definitely one of mine now. So I'm a bit like sad that I did donate it, but I don't know. Maybe when I have more space to get more books on a regular basis, I'll repurchase that at some point in the future. But that's how much I like this book. I was contemplating keeping it instead of donating it, but what's happened has happened. I donated it, but it's really good. So hopefully someone else can have a chance to read one of the best books I've ever read. Now on to the last book that I read in the month of July. And I actually have this book with me because I just made my spoiler-free book review on my channel for it, and that's a book called The Island by Natasha Preston. I really, really like this book. It was just a really fast-paced, exciting, entertaining, high suspense mystery thriller. This book really takes you on a ride. The only thing I didn't like about this book was the way it ends. But I had such a good time reading this book overall that I still gave it 5 stars. I mean, it was such a good book to read. It's especially for like a mystery thriller, a good mystery thriller. And I actually read this book in under a week, so that's not something I always do. Usually it takes me about a week and a half to read a book, so that's how fast paced this was. Did not want to put it down, although I never read a book in one sitting, so I did have to put it down, but it's definitely perfect to read in one sitting. So yeah, I give this book 5 stars. I can't remember if I said that or not. I am talking a little bit all over the place now. I can tell that I've been rambling a little bit, so I apologize for that. But before I end today's video, I do want to point out that every single book that I talked about today, the 3 books that I've read in July, I have spoiler-free book reviews on all these books on my channel, where I talk more in depth on what the book is about, general information on the book, my thoughts and my star rating. Just like I talk more in depth in those spoiler-free book reviews on these books. Today was more like a Cliff Notes version of what I read because, like I said, I've talked more in depth about these books already. But you can find all my spoiler-free book reviews for today, along with all the other books that I've read in 2024 as well, in my playlist titled Books I Read in 2024. So if you made it to this point of the video, thank you so very much for watching. Today's video really means a lot to me, and I hope I helped you discover a new book along the way. And yeah, until next time, bye.